Welcome to Therapy Inspired podcast. As therapists, we have a unique view of the world. We hold a space for grief and trauma, and yet we also get to witness resilience and healing, all while being human ourselves. We hope to share helpful psychoeducation with our insights from our world as psychotherapists. And now a disclaimer. We'll be talking about things related to therapy. However, listening or engaging with this podcast does not equate to a therapist-client relationship. And while we may discuss insights from working with various clinical issues, we don't reference specific cases. Hi, my name is Darby Crosby, and I'm the owner of Crosby Counseling and Wellness. I offer virtual therapy to individuals, couples, and families throughout Ontario.
And I'm Camila Osman. I do in-person therapy in Bowmanville, as well as virtual therapy throughout Ontario. Welcome to Therapy Inspired, where we explore ways to care for your mental well-being. Today, we're tackling a big topic, loneliness and isolation during the holidays. For many, the season brings reminders of connections, but it can also bring and highlight what's missing. If you're feeling lonely, you're not alone in that experience.
So in this episode, we're going to be talking about what loneliness means and how we can use the digital world to sort of connect meaningfully with others and ways to care for ourselves while navigating a challenging sort of holiday season.
So, what is loneliness? Loneliness isn't just about being alone, it's about a lack of meaningful connection. You could be surrounded by people and still feel lonely. It's a signal that, like hunger, that it tells us we're looking for more connections in our lives.
And the holiday season amplifies a sense of loneliness because holidays bring this expectation that we're going to have a lot of togetherness, a lot of joy. And if we're alone, right, it can highlight the fact that we feel more loneliness and we're not connected. So if you don't have family nearby, or if you're single and everybody else has gone home for the holidays, you can feel quite isolated and alone.
And loneliness doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It is a human experience and not a personal failing. So let's explore ways to address when this emotion comes up.
So one of the things that we'd like to do is just sort of look at sort of how we can sort of reframe our loneliness or our contact with people. So the internet gets a bad rap a lot of the time, but it's also a very powerful tool for connection. If you can't access in-person meetings during the holidays, you can sort of chat with people and interact with people on the internet through WhatsApp or other ways of chatting with people. And though you're not with them together, you still have that connection, which is really important.
And this can be difficult for people who are not familiar with tech tools. So, here are some practical ways that you can start to explore to connect online. You can try to explore internet based communities, join an online group or a forum. One of those ones that I've heard of is like meetup groups. And so you can explore the meetups online and then connect in person. Or you can explore groups that are just online where you're sharing recipes or talking about a hobby, any shared interests that can spark conversations easily. Explore virtual events. So many organizations will host virtual holiday parties or game nights, even volunteer opportunities that can be virtual. Check your local community pages or, as I mentioned, apps like Meetup.
Mhm. And reconnect with people that have been important in your life. Like you can send them a message to somebody just saying, "Hey, I haven't talked to you in a while," or "I'm thinking about you." That can go a long way to re-spark a connection. Also, if we can engage in sort of kindness-focused sort of platforms, groups that are sharing, positivity and gratitude, that can create really meaningful, uplifting sort of exchanges.
Common
We
hurdles. Sorry, go ahead, Darby.
Sorry, I was just going to say, tips for sort of meaningful interaction is the key is more of the quality piece, not the quantity piece. So what we're trying to do is aim for more deeper or more intentional interactions, and not just sort of scrolling through things and liking posts or making comments like this makes a lot of sense, but really something that we're sharing with somebody else.
Yeah, vulnerability can and true, authentic comments can be bonding. And there's lots that can hold us back sometimes from making those vulnerable comments, from putting ourselves out there in that full way. Sometimes we might think, what if nobody responds? What if people think this is dumb? Or it just feels awkward to put ourselves out there. It's normal to have some of that hesitation because it is vulnerable. It does make us feel, especially online when we make those comments to posts that exist out there, it may feel like, we're exposed and other people will read this, but that's a normal feeling. Once we almost like do some exposure therapy through that, normalize that it's okay. It's brave in some ways, and you may form genuine connections. I know I've done that through, business practices and connecting with people by commenting on their things and supporting other businesses. And sometimes we've formed genuine connection that's lasted years, especially through the pandemic when we weren't meeting people in person.
And I think in order to sort of make these changes, we have to start small. So, find something that you feel that you could really honestly and authentically, comment on. Like, what kind of a post would you like to sort of really share your insights with? Look for sort of an entry point that's easy for you. Like Camilla mentioned, like cooking or recipes. Like maybe that's a really easy way to get started. Or comment on, like, that's not the way I make cabbage soup, but that one sounds really good. Like, I mean, there's lots of different ways to create and generate honest communication. And it doesn't have to be perfect, like Camilla just said. It just has to be a connection and see what happens.
And it's okay to start small. Any step is a step forward. So, as much as we're saying to try to make some of those genuine comments, if you're out of practice, if it's unfamiliar to you, then maybe start with some of those small comments and make consistent effort to build that confidence over time that it's okay to make some of those small comments until you put more of yourself out there that may start to build that genuine connection. I will say, keep in mind that if you're making just those more neutral, small comments like, I like this or love it, you may not get that feedback back because it's not really an engaging comment. And so you may end up feeling like your efforts aren't being fruitful. However, recognizing like that piece is just for practice, and then you want to work up to making genuine comments that are more engaging, that may be where you get some of that feedback back that someone, is commenting on something that you put out there or tries to connect with you in a different way.
Good points. Also, we need to take care of ourselves. Like the digital connections and all of these things are very important, but we also have to remember that when we're offline, we also have to nurture ourselves and try to be authentic and compassionate to ourselves as we go through things. Loneliness doesn't define who you are, it doesn't define your worth. It's just a signal that you need to do something. It's like you're hungry, you need to eat something. You're thirsty, you need to drink something. So loneliness just means we need to engage.
And we are wired, like it's part of our overall wellness. We are wired for wanting to connect with other people. And so there's a reason why it feels like a need. It's innate within us as humans. So it's very normal. Some suggestions to care for yourself offline, maybe to spend some time in nature, take a walk outside to shift that mood. So while you're holding space for feeling lonely, sometimes if we're feeling down on top of feeling lonely, it's harder to want to connect with people. So that's where, doing some self-care offline that involves yourself may be a starting point to try to create that shift. Try volunteering in your community. If you feel comfortable doing that, helping others can often create a sense of purpose. It can give us a sense of, I still have something to offer here, even though I'm not feeling the best myself, that it can be really empowering and then motivating to want to talk about, yourself and connect, feel a sense of connection with the community overall, and then create rituals for yourself. So things that you're doing on a daily basis, and it doesn't have to be daily, but ever so often that help you feel good. It's restorative, something like a gratitude list or something like baking something, lighting a candle to mark the season, something that, speaks to you and you feel is restorative.
And practice self-compassion is really, really important. So it can be hard and we can tell ourselves negative messages, but we want to be kind to ourselves during this process. We want to be able to celebrate in small steps. We want to celebrate the holidays with ourselves. I mean, and to find that joy and happiness, even if we are the only one that's doing it in our environment. Right? It is important that we take care of ourselves and be compassionate and gentle with ourselves.
And so today we talked about understanding that loneliness is something that happens using the digital world to connect. It can help. There are different ways to overcome that barrier, including caring for yourself along the way.
And here's a challenge. Like this week, just choose a digital platform to explore. Maybe join a group or send a message. Try a virtual event. See what's happening. I mean, and even if you don't really like it that much, at least you've taken that step. And now you are one step closer to finding the group that you really want to belong to.
Loneliness may feel overwhelming, but connection is possible. You're not alone in wanting to connect and feeling like you're struggling making that connection. Every step you take brings you closer to that meaningful connection.
So thanks very much for listening to Therapy Inspired. And Camilla and I would like to say thank you very much for joining us. And please take care. And we look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks.